Together, you two schemers.
Good afternoon to you guys.
Well, we're in the evening.
Evening.
Yeah, we have 6 p.m.
My goodness.
And yours are fresh and fruity 10 a.m. in the morning.
Sunday morning.
Yep.
No, Saturday.
We're behind you.
Yeah, we're behind. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you how the day goes then.
We know the
How did it go for you, Pádraig? It's so good to see you both.
Yeah, good to see you both. I don't think we've met, Sarah, have we?
Yeah, we have.
I went to a cuddle at the.
It was in the bar, was it?
Probably.
Well, there's a good chance it was intoxicated then. But cool.
Amy Gubser, Sarah Roberts, welcome to the deep end.
Yay! We're glad to jump in.
California dreaming.
It's not a very sunny day.
No, it's not sunny today. No.
Well, only that the weather's there that you do have. It prepares you for where you're coming to when you come here.
I think that's a very valid point. Yes.
Yeah.
We are very blessed to have very similar conditions in that way.
Yeah.
Class ladies. We've been interviewing so many swimmers lately. It's been incredible to get so much information and feedback, and hopefully these videos will inspire the next generation or the next swimmer, or and help them figure the puzzle of crossing the North Channel, be it with us or someone else. There's so many interesting chats and about training and feeding and mindset and the journey, the adventure, and how it all happens and how it all comes about. And so yeah, we're going to cover some of that today for both of you. I suppose what stands out for me is, Amy, is when we first met at Hit the Wall, your attitude and funness and messerness really came through, and you could see why so many people would be attracted by your spirit. It's fantastic to have you involved in one of our swims, and help so many other people on those big long swims, and you broke it down for them and you give them plenty of jokes and supported them.
Some of them not appropriate, but
Yeah.
Not to be retold online, but certainly out at sea, we can say what we want. And Sarah, you're going to see him obviously joining us for Hit the Wall for your big swim, and that enthusiasm resounded with you. So the reason that I asked for both of you together was, and obviously a few years in the difference, 2018 and 2023, but because of the environment that you train in and what it offers, and showing people about the importance of the acclimatization for the North Channel, that was one of the main things. And you train together, and obviously people who train together stay together and have a great friendship. So there's a nice bubbliness with both of you. South End Rowing Club.
Yeah, represent.
The ticket, and so many names on the plaque in the wall. Honourable to have our Infinity Channel swimming plaque on the wall there.
Yeah.
Tell us about the waters of San Francisco Bay and the opportunities that it affords comparatively to the water's temperatures here.
I think it's surprisingly similar. Our range in temperature is probably within the median range of what you guys experience. So we might not get as warm, but we might not also get as cold. So we range between 50 and 60 degrees, whatever that is in Celsius.
10 to 15?
Yeah, 10 to 15.
Mhm.
So we get long periods of really cold and then long periods of kind of warm. So we're extremely lucky that we get to swim year round in
Outdoors.
relatively outdoors
Mhm.
in crazy current and conditions
Mhm.
that a lot of people don't get what we get. So temperature wise, it's very similar. Conditions wise, we get absolutely insane, crazy
Yeah.
conditions all the time.
Yeah.
Both
And we swim in it. Like
Yeah.
we will swim in small craft warning. We will swim when the waves are dancing.
Yeah.
And we will swim when it drops below 10, and we will swim the time that we need to get in to train because we're together and we work together. So yeah, we're very lucky.
Yeah, our currents, the way the bay works and where we are positioned in the bay, there's always current moving. So similar to the channel,
Mhm.
there's always current moving. So you
Mhm.
kind of have to know and learn what the bay is doing.
Mhm.
And there's always current to swim against. So
Yeah.
it ranges from like half a knot all the way up to 3 and 4 knots.
Yeah.
So you always can practice whatever it is you're training for.
Mhm.
There's always
Some
something.
resistance.
Yeah.
And we don't do the cross current because the North Channel is cross current, but we're using that current to train against to actually prepare our bodies. So when you say you have to break that current line, we know what you mean because we usually swim into it. So, and as Pádraig remembers on my swim, he's like, Amy, I need you to pick it up. I'm like, I've got one piece, but as soon as I felt the tension on that current and I knew it was stronger, I actually got stronger because I knew what swimming in current was. Like, I like the tension, you
Yeah.
like the tension on the water. And sometimes we don't go distance as far because of the currents.
Yeah.
And we don't count the distance when we get pushed from the current because we know that that's not how we should count our training. So we,
Yeah, like I think we could easily do a 12-mile swim in an hour and a half.
yeah, I just did 6 miles this morning in less than 2 hours. Like,
So
Brad, I didn't swim. I was literally doing backstroke and floating. Like the dead fish would have made it in an hour and a half too. you know?
Well,
Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm
fine.
not a dead fish, but I'm certainly slower, but certainly having jumped in at the Golden Gate Bridge and felt
mhm.
buzz on my watch as soon as 500 meters had gone by in a split second was an
Yeah.
amazing experience. So if that's only a small amount of what you guys experience on a regular basis, it's a
Yeah.
wonderful space to be.
Yeah, we're very prepared for the water temperature. I would say that's what San
Yeah.
Francisco has to offer the best is condition, water temperature.
And year round.
And year round.
Year-round water temperature.
Mhm.
Like right now it's 53, so
It's
maybe
actually
about
warm.
11
Yeah.
Celsius. So it's pretty comparable to anywhere you'd want to swim in the world.
And at this time of the year, how, and I suppose in preparation for the North Channel, how far would you have been swimming in the early months of the year? In that
Oh.
temperature, or even now?
3 to 4 hours, no problem, on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much as long as it's above 50 degrees, we can pretty much swim all day if we wanted to.
Sometimes we swim 6 to 8 hours in that too. We don't know. We just do what
Yeah.
we do. We just keep going.
It's really-
Onward.
Yeah.
Yes, onward Eddies, that's you guys.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we're really lucky because even having, so there's the environment of the bay, so the wind conditions, the water
Mhm.
conditions, the current, the temperature, but then there's also the South End Rowing Club,
Mhm.
where we're just over 2,000 members now,
Mhm.
and there's always the same people every morning. There's pods to swim with. There's
Mhm.
always somebody training for something crazy and ridiculous. There's people who are just starting. So there's this huge range of people
Yeah.
who we're surrounded by all the time, who are always contributing to figuring out what the next thing to do, or hey, I need to do a 3-hour swim, or I need to do a
Yeah,
4,
There's always someone up for
Yeah.
the chaos. Yeah, and the crazy.
or I'm doing this 12-hour swim. Can somebody kayak?
When can
There's
I show
always-
up?
Yeah, there's always somebody around who's
Yeah.
willing to
And
help you out.
There's always a warm shower and a hot sauna.
Yeah, and a sauna.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Jameson whiskey.
Good. Oh, that too, if you
Yeah.
need that. Yeah. But you know, like when we're training for the North Channel, we try to minimize our time in the sauna because we want to keep our body cold. We want our body to naturally warm up. Like I think you guys were laughing when I finished mine. I didn't want to be, I wanted to stay in my swimsuit. Like I'm like, I'd like to warm up slower than that. It was like, you know,
Yeah.
because we allow our bodies to naturally warm up and that actually helps with our cold tolerance. So, yeah.
So one quick question. Why the North Channel?
I would love to be on that side, but if I can't because he's driving.
And meanwhile, Amy's here. Hi, Amy. Going really well. Tap to escort his beautiful Amy.
Did it all before.
I know it.
Ah! What a man!
How do you get a live video?
Oh, beautiful, beautiful water.
Yeah.
The fact that it's the hardest swim of the Ocean 7 identified. The fact that it's between Ireland and Scotland, North Sea, like it just meets all the checklists of absolute insanity, which is perfect.
You agree,
Yeah,
Sarah?
And she's off.
Is it nice and warm?
yeah, it's really hard with any swim somebody wants to do. It's sometimes it's really hard to put your finger on why, because it's kind of the same idea of, you know, oh, you look up at a mountain and, oh, I wonder if I could get to the top of that. I don't know what that feeling is, but every once in a while there's a body of water where you just sort of look at it and go, dang it,
Yeah.
really want to swim across that now. So sometimes it's just the feeling of, or the look of it draws you to want to do it. And I think
The
North Channel
history,
does it.
the story, how difficult it is. And not to mention, there's such a welcoming community of swimmers with the dunkers, the chunky dunkers up there that just kind of surround you. And you feel when you go to places, especially if you're coming from out of the country to another country to swim, it's really kind of overwhelming and a little bit disillusioning. You just don't know, you can't ground yourself. You feel really grounded very quickly in your culture and in your environment. And for this particular swim, this is probably the most unique swim in the whole entire world. And it's a hard swim, but what you get and take away from it is so much more deep and rich, and it just resonates with your soul. And you just feel so embraced up there.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's
Although
hard.
Scotland's shores were a little bit nasty with those jellyfish and the jagged rocks, and I left some skin and blood there. It's okay.
As did Sarah.
As did Sarah.
Yeah, I had a nice face plant in the dark that hopefully nobody caught on camera.
Yeah, like it is a pretty raw swim. It is a wilderness out, you know, on that stretch of water, and it is an adventure. So you're blessed to come from somewhere in the world where you use cold water, pretty similar to the North Channel, tough currents, a community that is easy to find training partners and stuff like that. So what training would each of you had done prior to on the run up to your North Channel swim, like hours or distance, cold water and then pool versus open water?
Well, I'll have you go since yours was most recent.
Yeah, I think in terms of hours and time and distance, swimming in, like we said, swimming in the bay, it's really hard to track distance because you can swim so far or so short in the same amount of time that any open water swimming, we sort of have to look at it in terms of hours rather than the distance. Whereas the pool is more like running on a treadmill. It's the same thing. You can work on technique and
And you can
speed
work
and
on
all
speed.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So generally I went to the pool maybe a couple times a week, and most of my time I spent in the bay. So I did probably, ratcheting up in time, I probably did between 12 hours kind of in the beginning up to 15 to 20 hours a week total leading up to it. And once a month I'd always do kind of like one big long training swim leading up to it. So I think
between like 6 and 8 hours, 4 to 6 hours, 4 to 8 hours.
Yeah. Certainly for the North Channel this year, it was a little bit of a unique training experience because I got to go to hit the wall. So I did hit the wall at the end of May. Then
to New York.
literally the next day, Amy and I
New
got
York.
on a plane and we swam around Manhattan.
We thought that was a good idea.
Sure.
It was.
Yeah.
Crazy.
We did good. It was good. And it was a night swim around Manhattan, which was even more delightful because you don't want to see what's in that water sometimes.
So I think within a week, I think I did
like 40 miles or something ridiculous.
I think it was something like
100 hours.
50 or 60 miles in 1 week between hit the wall and Manhattan.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, well, I feel really ready. And so I just sort of kept a good tempo through June. I did one last training swim at night with a friend who was also training for something crazy. Again, the club provides somebody who wants to show up at 11 o'clock at night and swim for 7 hours at night. Sounds good. So I did that, and then I kind of had a nice little taper, and then I showed up in Ireland
And crushed it. You did great.
So yeah,
Plus time zones, you had all of that to
plus a lot of
time
time
zones.
zones. Yeah.
And I think the main thing that I want to express to swimmers as they're getting ready for big events is you kind of, first of all, need to know what your body needs. There's a wide gamut of different types of swimmers. And Sarah and I have a very similar need for our body to really push the endurance and longer swims back to back for how our training works best for our bodies and for our channels, and the accomplishments that we've had have been very similar. And when you learn that about yourself, you can have a very successful pool swimmer and they can get the miles in, but the acclimation to the cold, there's other challenges. So the fact that we have that acclimation going on because we're training a lot. When I trained for North Channel, I exclusively did it in the water, in the open water, and I would just do back-to-back longer swims. And that's how I accomplished it, push the distance. We roughly calculate about 1.8 to 2 miles an hour when we swim with current. So again, we were trying to just ramp up around that time, and about 6 weeks out from the swim, kind of peak it out and then kind of hold it there for a couple weeks and then taper it down, is kind of the tactic I think most people use. But as I'm aging, my body needs different things now, and I'm learning that. So I really think you need to do a yearly check-in with your body and the differences that your body might present. I don't need to swim as long. My body needs more recovery now. I didn't appreciate that before. So I really think, and I'm also a lot older than Sarah. We laugh sometimes.
That much.
No, but I mean, but no, when you did the channel, you were how old?
The North Channel?
Yeah.
39.
Okay, I was just almost 50.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a difference in ages, but we train together and we know that works for ourselves. So I think the biggest thing that I would like to express to swimmers training up is know your body, but don't cut it short. And you need to push it. You need to find those breaking points so that you're fully aware that it's not a surprise in the middle of the channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pool swimmers are challenged by wind. Train in some wind, so you're not put off by that, because that can really put somebody's stroke technique off, and then it gets in their head. You know, you got to really challenge yourself on other things that you're not even aware of.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think, again, swimming in the bay, we're so lucky because most of the time, by the time we get to whatever swim it is we're training for, our training swims have been harder and have seen worse conditions than the swim we're actually doing.
Yeah.
Like when I came to Ireland and I was waiting for my swim and we were having horrible weather and it was windy and rainy and ridiculous. I was with the Chunky Dunkers and we were looking out and I was like, oh, but it's such a lovely day. And they're like, they would never put you in conditions like this.
And we
And I'm looking, this is a pretty good day. I don't know what you guys
Yeah, and you're like, well, I want to go.
Yeah, she was ready.
So yeah, I think training wise, you
Mhm.
can't ignore, like you can lay out a plan, and when you get to the open water, if it's a horrible day, you still have to do something. Still get in the water, because you have to experience those horrible, awful conditions, because you might get an hour of 30-mile-an-hour winds, but if you can
Yeah.
survive it for a short amount of time, you'll get through it.
Mhm.
So if you don't train, if you don't give yourself a couple of really bad days in training,
Mhm.
you won't be surprised when you get to
Yeah.
your actual swim.
Yeah.
And
Because
Yeah, go ahead, Pádraig.
like the North Channel, like any piece of water, the weather forecast is one thing, and what you actually get in the day is completely different. And some days everyone gets caught out, and other days when you think the weather's going to be crap, it's one of the best days of the freaking season, and you're sitting getting crushed by all your swimmers, you know. So having that preparation done, that you will be able to deal with a bit of chop, whatever it may be, you know, is vital. You know, we've seen a lot of pool swimmers coming and slapping the water, saying that, you know, basically can't deal with the waves, the wind, the current. You know, they just can't understand why the water won't do what they want to do.
Right,
Mother-
right.
Their mother
You're not
nature.
in charge.
Yeah.
When you're in the ocean, you're not in
No,
charge.
no. And that's why I want to express that more than anything, the adversity that you need to prepare for, because that channel has her moods, and you know, you really need to be ready.
Yeah.
Like everybody could be physically prepared from a pool, and there's so many, that environment's controlled, the temperature's the same. If it's an indoor pool, the air temperature in there is the same. Like you have so much in your that's controlled for you that you really need to get out of that controlled environment to really challenge yourself, because the North Channel will challenge you on every aspect, mentally, emotionally, physically. And if that will put you off, you're going to just have a lot more to reckon with in your head.
Yeah.
Because you could do it. Most of these swimmers would be capable, but it's the head.
Yeah. I think 90% of the time, your body will make it through. You can punish it as much as you want, and it somehow you'll physically make it. But I think a lot of times mentally, if you don't have, again, if you don't have those really horrible shorter training swims where, you know, mentally I got through that, so okay, well, I'll suffer a little bit more here. If you don't train your mind to get through those times, once you get to the big day, your brain is already full of all these other questions, and it's a bigger day, and you just have to make sure you're mentally there, because physically you can push yourself and you'll eventually get there, but mentally it's so much easier to give up mentally than physically.
Yeah.
You both have that resilience, and your achievements have go with you. Monterey Bay and round trip Ancient Islands and Catalinas and all the rest. Well, Amy, you came to the North Channel with one of the simplest feeding plans I ever saw. And one of my favorites was cold smash.
Cold potatoes, yeah.
And Sarah, obviously you haven't been on your boat as crew as well. A very simple and a well tested and tried feeding plan. We're going to talk a little bit about the importance of nutrition. And Amy, for you, throw me the bottle, throw me the bag with the potato, rip the top off, get it in nice and quick, and onwards. Talk to us about how you developed that and got to that point.
Well, again, I can't express enough for somebody to understand what their body needs, first of all, and foremost, and also like challenge. Like from around here, sometimes we'll go for a 6 or 8 hour swim and all we have is something we could tuck in the back of our suit, and that's all we can bring with us. So keeping it simple was always something that was expressed to me. And so I just use a Carbo Pro with a little bit of electrolyte, and then I like mashed potatoes, but I think I was your first swimmer that you even allowed cool feeds. We don't even heat up our feeds here because we want to train with cold feeds. And so I was grateful because warm feeds I don't tolerate very well. And so I just like to keep it simple. And so the potatoes just happened to, I knew they were going to be cold and I was okay with that. You guys almost thought it was sacrilegious, but it was,
Not at all.
they're brilliant because potatoes have a great carbohydrate. You can mix some fat in it so it prolongs the uptake and it keeps it consistent for a lot longer. And you could get them down really fast. You don't even have to chew. It's wonderful. You just swallow them.
No, not sacrilege at all. I'm sure many's a farmer at cold potatoes with butter and scallion through them. Our champ, as we call it here. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I think, again, swimming where we swim, we don't always have boat support. We're not always going back to the same beach.
Right.
We don't want to get out of the water, so it has to be super simple. So sort of taking in the every 30 minutes, a certain amount of calories, a certain amount of electrolytes. If you just measure it out, know how much you need to drink every time, it doesn't have to be much more complicated than that. I definitely like having a little bit of some sort of serotonin boost. So like a chocolate or a piece of candy or something. So I think that's the most complicated I get is, oh, next time I would really like a little
snack.
a little treat.
Yeah.
So
Sarah had one of these ready roll
Oh yeah,
bags that just hung up on the boat. I probably won't hang it up because there's a few things in there like the Jaffas that might melt.
Or I might eat.
It tends to get out M&Ms.
Yeah.
Kisses,
Brilliant.
peanut
Yeah.
cups, and it was like, okay, I just grab 4 of those.
Yeah, brilliant.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I know. She is the best prepper ever.
Very organized.
Yeah, she's such an organized person. I'm always amazed when I
Well,
swim with you.
yeah, and I think because I know what's there, so I also want it to be easy for crew too. Because I mean, you also ask these huge favors of people. Like, oh yes, come and sit on a boat for 15, 16, 18 hours, please. It's like, no, I want it to be as easy as possible. So when I know, and I think we both are pretty self-aware about the things we need.
Yeah.
So
Whenever you're ready, David, get your gear.
Okay. Throwing it out.
Good shot.
as I'm swimming, it's like, oh, I really want this next time. So if I can yell up to the crew and say, hey, I'd really like a honey goo or a chocolate something, I want them to be able to see and make it easy for them to go and pull it, easy to give it to me. Plus, like in the North Channel, there's crazy currents. So the less time I'm stopping and waiting, the less time I'm on the next one, the less distance you're covering, the less makeup time you've got. So if I can make it as simple as possible, have everything easily grabbable and seen, the better for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And both of you did. There was examples of Amy, you know, can I have or something, if it was a little treat, and certainly also for you, Sarah. I was like, I think I'm gonna have next time, and we had it ready for you. So probably gives you something for your head to think about also.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then even if like we've been in situations where we're stuck in a current and there's absolutely no way that we could stop for a feed for maybe an hour or two sometimes. And so we also push and train so that if we don't get what we want, like on a specific swim where it's every 30 minutes, we're like, okay with it. We'll wait for the next time.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't find that. That's why Sarah got so organized. Because we've been on cruise
Yeah.
where we're digging in the bag looking for that one honey thing, you know, that was like wedged under the underpants under the left shoe. We're not sure,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, it takes us 2 hours to find the thing. And then each time they're grumpy because they don't have it. We've been there, so we don't want that. And
Yeah.
so we've also challenged ourselves to learn that we'll be okay with waiting if we have to, but queuing helps as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, we were in 2022. In 2022, we did a tandem swim with a few friends. We did the Maui Nui channels. So the 3 channels between
Right.
Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. And we did it as a 4-person tandem.
Mhm.
And we only had one crew member for
Yeah,
the
for
4 of us.
husband,
My
yeah.
husband David.
God love him.
And of course, you know, I was very organized. We all had our thing. We tried to tell David ahead of time, like, here's all the stuff we want. And from the first feed, oh, actually, I'd really like this, or oh, please, can I have a Coke? And
It wasn't
he's like,
a
no,
short
no,
order
no.
cook. He's not a short order cook.
So it was just this hysterical. Normally, we're super organized
Yeah.
and we're ready to go, and for some reason on that swim, it just
Well,
completely devolved.
Well, and then the water temperature was so warm. It was
Yeah.
like 27 degrees Celsius. Like it was like seriously
So hot.
blistering hot. I made all 3 channels off Coca-Cola because I kept throwing everything up.
Yeah.
And Sarah just laughs. She's like, do you ever have a swim now that you don't throw up on? I'm like, maybe, not sure. But I mean, powered by Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
I'm a
it
big
didn't feel
believer
great.
of Coke. I'm a big believer of Coke on a swim, just to have it there.
Absolutely.
Just in
That's
case.
magic.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
get people through, honestly. don't, and people that are so against it, they should not be.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Give it a try.
And time in between your feeds, what works for you?
It's every 30 minutes.
We start an
Usually
hour.
Nothing for the
30.
first hour, and then once every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I've never done shorter than that. To
I
me,
think-
it seems odd to do shorter,
Mhm.
only because you're in such a good rhythm, and 30
Why
minutes
break it?
seems
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
such a nice. It's
It's a
also
good
kind of like a meditative state. Like
Mhm.
30 minutes seems like such a nice time frame,
Mhm.
and I don't think that, at least for me, I need anything like. The amount of whatever it is I'm going to consume every 30 minutes
Should carry you.
should carry you through
Mhm.
30 minutes. So unless there's something really bad going on,
Yeah.
I don't really need anything less than 30 minutes.
Yeah, definitely stopping quicker. Again, if your body needs that, you should know that, but maybe you should
Yeah.
try other things that could extend that time frame, because the interruptions, I think, is the most devastating to a long distance swim.
Yeah.
I think the more that you stop, the harder on your body it actually becomes toward the latter part of the swim. As I've gotten older, I'm getting more of an insulin resistance, so I'm actually pushing. I'm feeling better about 45-minute feeds. So and I know a lot of my European friends, they go to 45-minute feeds right off the bat. So, you know, I think, and my body's aging, it's changing. So I'm trying to figure that out right now as well, getting ready for another big swim. So I don't want to have people have a specific plan. They should reevaluate it yearly as their body changes in different
Yeah.
ways.
And you should be training enough
That you should know.
to go, oh, okay, well, maybe this month I'll try 45-minute feeds or
Yeah.
40-minute feeds. So you should have enough lead time before your big swim.
Yeah, so it's not the day of the swim. Oh, I think I might try. You
Yeah.
never want to try anything new on the swim. Never.
Well,
And that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Even with people that I know that have done multiple swims, I see it all the time. I don't know.
both of you would be very supportive of the use of Desitin, lovely
Yeah.
bodies going into the swim. And that's something that we get a lot of questions about, you know, the protection against the cold, the protection against jellyfish, and both of you have had your fair share of jellyfish stings, not only on the North Channel, but also on other massive marathon swims, Amy in particular, with the slashes on
Oh
your
my, yeah. Oh.
um
And then
and-
Sarah with the
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
blue bottle water.
the blue bottle, and Sarah, obviously on your swim, and Amy, you did encounter them. Sarah, you started at the Gobbins, and you were straight bang into, unfortunately, a swarm of them, where they tend to like to
The
live
welcoming
together. It's
crew.
not
Yeah.
something that we
Yeah.
can control.
I
Um,
don't know what it is about jellyfish. I seem
They're
to run
drawn
into
to
them.
her. Yeah, they're,
Monterey, Maui, I ran
they
into-
love her.
Yeah.
And
But-
both of you would have pharmacy that support that. Talk to us a
Yeah.
little bit about the pharmaceuticals that come with you both in your swims, because you use very good products, and I could only acclaim to them, or sort of
Yeah.
recommend them as well.
Well, Sarah is extremely reactive to the jellyfish sting, and I also have a very similar reaction, but not as severe. But I have a very hyperreactive immune system to a lot of things, and I've been working with an allergist, and the protocol that I came up with the oral medications is from him, and it also is from his research with, like, there was a jellyfish leader in actually Hawaii that started using this protocol, but he let me know about it, and we tried it, and actually worked really well for Sarah as well.
Yeah.
And it's worked for several swimmers, where it's the 24-hour over-the-counter allergy medication that we can get in the States. We take that going into the swim a day or two, but we double it up on the day of the swim if you're very reactive. But in addition to that, this other medicine called Pepcid, which I don't know what the other name in your country is, or
It's for heartburn.
heartburn. Yeah, it's an
Stomach acid.
H2 blocker. So we use an H1 blocker and an H2 blocker, and it quells the immune system from overreacting to the jelly stings. And it works really well.
Yeah.
And you can actually go up to 4 times that amount and still be okay. I've done it and
Mhm.
it's been okay. But if you know that your skin's not going to overreact, because there's a huge histamine response with each one of those jellyfish kiss. They kiss you and your body releases more histamine, and that actually keeps it at a better level. And I don't think the topical things work
No.
at all. I haven't found.
I've tried Sea Safe, which is what a lot of people use, the
Mhm.
jellyfish and sunscreen,
Mhm,
but it's never worked for me,
mhm,
ever.
yeah.
So I think I'm much better just taking the Pepcid and allergy medication combo.
Mhm.
That seems to cut a lot of, I get both the surface reaction, so I get,
Yeah.
the big red marks, super, super itchy, but I also get the nerve reaction.
Mhm.
So I shake really
Mhm.
uncontrollably, and my joints really hurt. So there's
Mhm.
a lot of inflammation and a lot of nerve reaction.
Yeah.
So certainly the Pepcid, and we call it Allegra. Allegra combination kills the nerve and
Yeah.
the inflammation reaction. The skin reaction is a
have
little
to
bit
suffer.
harder. I just have to suffer through it. Nothing seems to fix that.
Mhm.
But at least the combination
Yeah,
of the two meds really, at least to me, the nerve and the joint pain is worse than
Yeah.
the skin reaction. So
yeah, and I
That's
get the
super
joint
helpful.
pain, and I get some airway things with my
Yeah.
reaction to jellyfish, so it quells that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you might not see, like, I almost was really upset when I was getting blasted by jellyfish on my Monterey Bay swim, because you couldn't see it. I'm like, oh, no one's
Yeah.
gonna believe how bad this is. And then by the end, I definitely had a lot of kisses. But, it's everybody's body will react to these jellyfish in such a profound, different way. And having that knowledge, but a lot of people don't just want to go get stung by a jellyfish prior to a big sting or a big swim. But if you know that your body's reactive, talk to your physician.
Yeah.
And I think that there's not been as big awareness in certain countries that this combination works, but we have had at least some leaders around here that have, like, kind of tried this with us crazy swimmers, and it seems to really work. And
Yeah.
it's not benign, so I always want people to make sure they talk to their doctors about that combination. So everybody that has asked you, Jacqueline, for the supply that we gave to you has checked with their physicians, and and really it's pretty benign in the overall scheme of things. It's just the combination of those two are kind of a synergist to help protect you, which is nice.
so
Yeah.
at any, like, this is probably I think it's important for us, but you know, swimmers that pee during their swim, we know that their bodies is working okay and they're flushing out whatever. At any stage during your swims, did you actually stop because of your jellyfish stings? Stop peeing?
No,
No.
I don't think
Okay.
so. But I have seen a lot of people, and this is something to know, with an ibuprofen or like an Advil, they can't urinate. They just can't go. And so we've actually stopped taking pain medication on our swims
Yeah.
unless it's absolutely necessary. And try to stick more to a Tylenol base one, if possible, like Excedrin, which has a little caffeine. But there is an association with ibuprofen and inability to pee, because ibuprofen breaks down the kidney, actually has to metabolize it. So if we're stressing our kidneys by doing this huge event, by breaking down muscle, and the kidneys are kind of like, what's this? And then we're dehydrating, but we're trying to stay ahead of it. But you know, the kidneys are a little bit more apt to having problems. So it could be around the fact that they're having jellyfish stings, they're asking for pain medication, and now they can't
Yeah.
go.
Good
It's
point.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might not be the jellyfish. It
It
might
might
be
Something else.
something else they're taking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
No, that's good.
I think when I've crewed for friends who suddenly have like, oh, I haven't peed for 2 hours, yet I'm drinking all this stuff. Sometimes holding back a feed, like just
Yeah.
skipping one, seems to
Work better.
give your kidneys and your liver a second to flush everything, and then it somehow kicks back in being able to pee. So anytime I've encountered not being able to pee, it's like, oh, if you just give yourself a break for a feed and go back to it, it somehow kicks everything back in. That seems to be successful.
Brilliant.
Good advice. Thanks, ladies.
Yeah.
And in terms of you mentioned the Desitin, I don't. Desitin does not help with the cold.
No,
It doesn't. But it does help. I burn. I'm blonde,
fair,
white
yeah.
person, so I burn in 2 hours in the sun. So
The sunblock.
anything beyond a 4 or 5 hour swim in the sun.
Do you see her pink cheeks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to cover up. So Desitin, most sunscreens, if you find one with a zinc base, anything beyond 20% lasts a really, really long time. And it also helps with chafing. So cold saltwater swims, the chafing can be absolutely horrible. So between that and the sun, Desitin just covers everything, because Desitin is at least 40% zinc. So that helps a lot.
Can't always guarantee sun here, but certainly the salty water.
The salty water and the chub rub happens.
Amy's chub rub, yes.
Oh yeah, I get it on the neck. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you know, the usual culprits. Yeah.
So you girls are fortunate to come from a fantastic club and part of the world that is pretty similar to the North Channel. So you're also rock solid in terms of your approach to these big swims. Explain to us the mindset before, during, and then afterwards. You know, what do you personally find, and what works for you, and what support you need, or if you need any at all?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is, if you look at the whole channel, it can overwhelm anybody. In fact, I actually prefer not to even see my water that I'm going to swim in before I do it. Like, I like to just show up and go. Like, I don't want to sit there and like look and kind of, I just want to go. I break it down. We're both easygoing people, and I think that speaks to more of the person's nature. I think you have to, if you're not as easygoing, you have to come up with strategies that don't derail you, so that you don't get more sidetracked or anxious. So, I mean, I go feed to feed. I just know that I'm clipping across. It might not be fast at certain portions, but you know, I'm certainly 30 minutes further than I was before. So I just keep going and just kind of go till the land appears. But I think that we have been lucky that we have found other swimmers that share the same mindset, but I
Yeah.
know a lot of different people that have a different mindset. But most of our swimmers that we're around are similar to us, so.
Yeah. And I think at least, you know, the day before, like, oh, I got the text from Jacqueline, oh, you're going tomorrow, show up for the harbor at this time. It's like, okay, you know, from that point when I know it's like, okay, I know I'm swimming tomorrow. The mental game you have to play of, well, have I done the work? Have I done the training? Like,
Mhm.
well, if I can answer yes, it's like, well, then what am I stressed out about?
Right.
Everything
Right.
else, I can't control anything else. All I can do is train, do the work, come prepared, be ready to swim.
And execute.
Yeah. Everything else is out of my control. Is it too windy? Is it gonna rain? Is it too sunny? Is the boat gonna break down?
How about the
Are my crew,
jellyfish?
yeah, are jellyfish gonna show up? Are sharks gonna show up? Is my crew gonna get sick? None of that I can control. So the mental game of, okay, I know I'm gonna swim tomorrow. I've done the work, my feeds are ready, I'm ready to go. You can kind of just relax at that point because you've done the mental work up to that
Yeah.
point. So
Well, I was laughing on my swim. Pádraig, every feed wanted to give me a new cap because my cap was almost off my head.
No.
And I train like that. It always
Yeah.
falls off my head. And he's like, Amy, fix your cap. I'm like, I'm not even taking my goggles off because I know I'm not gonna be able to get it back on. And like, I even train without a cap on in case my cap falls off, so I don't have to sit there and
Yeah.
struggle because I know it's gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
if you know something possibly is something that could stress somebody else out, make sure you're prepared for that because like I think it stressed you guys out more than it did me. I'm like, yeah, I know. It looks like a rooster. I know. Whatever. Like, I'll make it. And then I know you knew I was gonna make it because it wasn't derailing me. Like that's the
Yeah.
type of mental thing. Like I can't control the fact that I know my cap's gonna fall off and it usually does. So if I cannot freak out in the middle of a swim, I mean, I remember I jumped off a boat once under the Golden Gate Bridge, my goggles right to the bottom, like
oh yeah.
right off the head, right to the bottom, and I had 6 miles to swim. Well, I know how to swim. Yeah, I swam with my eyes closed and I made it. Like, don't freak out. Like, I actually encourage people to swim without goggles, without a cap every now and then,
Yeah.
so you don't freak out.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever, and I think in training, there's all the physical training, the hours in the water, all that stuff. And then there's also like the mental training of
Yeah.
doing these weird things to yourself, like swimming without goggles or swimming on a horrible day, so that when you do get to that point, everything you could possibly worry about is out of your control. So it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, my job. And again, to the point of like having organized feeds and having everything ready, is my job showing up to the swim is to swim. That's my only job. Everyone else has a job. Everybody knows what their job is. My job is to show up and swim.
And this is
So,
where you focus. You
yeah.
focus for the other side.
So
Yeah.
if I can be mentally ready for that, then I know I'm going to show up and do my job. So that everybody who I've asked to be there on that day can do theirs, and we're all ready to go.
And that's certainly something that I saw, you know, Amy, you with Greg, and Sarah, you with David. They were so tuned into what your needs were and knew the intricacies of, well, if this happens, you know, there was a bigger plan, there was an alternative option. You know, don't panic about this. Amy's been through this before. Sarah knows what she's doing, you know, even when it came to timings and stroke rates. And so yes, I suppose just their influence and reinforcing the importance of the crew member, your specific crew. And that's what we say, you know, your crew needs to know you inside out, what your likes or dislikes are, when you're grumpy, what's wrong. You feel that's an important thing for others to have.
Yeah, I think both Sarah and I have a unique situation where both of our husbands are actually good crew members, because I see a lot of times it's recommended you don't bring your spouse as your crew
No
member.
family members.
No family members sometimes.
You are the exception.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're just really lucky that they both understand, and they both do sport that also has to go in that same mental place. Like David Rose, he knows that you just have to put your head down and swim sometimes.
Yeah.
And same thing, just I'll see you in a half an hour, shut up and swim, go, and you just like give that tough love, but that support. The other thing that I see with crew members when you pick is sometimes they're worried about other things that not necessarily are impacting, but trying to think ahead is helpful, so that you don't have to worry about it,
Yeah, and I think we're both very lucky in that the uniqueness of having our spouse be a crew member is unique. I
is,
don't know a
unique.
lot of people within our group who is lucky enough to have that, because David always teases that, one of the reasons people don't suggest to have a spouse or a family member on your crew is because they worry about you. They see you suffering, they see you getting hit by jellyfish or a shark coming along or something, that they want you to get out of the water. And David always teases that. He's like, it's fine, I can watch you suffer for a while.
It's okay.
It's okay, she can suffer for a while.
Although
It'll
he
be
was
fine.
really worried when you got hit with the blue bottle. He was kind of stressed
Yeah,
out. And
that was a bit extreme.
that was it.
But even still, he did pull me
He
out.
didn't pull you out. No, but he couldn't find the towel either.
No, yeah. He did get me the meds though.
Yeah, he did.
So
Yeah,
so the
yeah. I
other-
think having, if you can't have a spouse or family member, finding somebody in your community who at least understands what it is you're attempting to do is really important, because there's that feeling of they understand the hardness of what you're trying to do. They know what the stakes are. They know what feeding is like. They know what training you've been through. So if it's a friend or a coach, something like that, who knows what you've been through to get there, they've seen how much training you've done. They know the cost of what you're trying to do. They know what the stakes are. So they know they've seen you train, and they know how far you can get pushed, and then maybe a little bit more.
Because the darkest spots are temporary if you're prepared enough, and someone needs to get you back on track mentally to get through that dark spot. And physically, if you're having like intolerance of your feeds or something like that, it's temporary if you have somebody that can think ahead and have a backup plan. So that's the importance. If you've done the work, you should be able to sustain any of those dark corners and those dark parts of the swim, but they're never consistent. They're not always going to be like that. And it ebbs and flows on a swim. Like there's some really highlights, and then there's some dark spots, and then it changes. It's always changing. So you need somebody that's not going to overreact to one and get paralyzed and not be able to get ready for the next phase. And because it is a marathon for them as a crew member to be prepared for that. And I've been on several swims that you twist, pivot.
And knowing what you want as a swimmer. Do you want somebody, and it's totally personal, do you want somebody who's super emotional? Do you want somebody who's kind of stone-faced? Because you're going to be looking at them for hours at a time. When you look up at the boat and see them, do you want somebody who's like always excited all the time or crying for you? Like, it is up to you what you want. So you kind of, not only do you need all the aspects of them knowing you well and knowing how far you can get pushed, but you also need to know them as a person. Like, what emotional feedback do you want from
you need that feedback. Like Sarah and I both, we don't care. Tell us where we're at. Like, it's not going to derail us. Like if it's been 17 hours and you're like, you only made it 11 miles, be like, all right, we'll put our head down and we keep going. Like, but we know that about ourselves. Other people that, as you've seen, that might just like, they melt and then that's it, they dissolve. But you need to know the feedback. You need to have that crew member be able to provide you that feedback with the rest of the crew so that it gets you through that. Like Pádraig, you drove me nuts. You went between meters and miles on purpose, and I had you calculate it out. I knew. I think it was at 10 kilometers, then it was 10 miles, and then this, that, and the other. And I just started laughing, and I'm like, it didn't bother me. I just was like, I could have handled it wherever I was, but it wouldn't have mattered.
Well, Amy, You also had
10K.
the O'Malley dailies on your boat, so they were constant cheering joy
Yeah.
all day.
They were funny.
Uh,
And
so
every
the-
time
the-
Packy jumped in the water, got stung. It was great.
Oh yes, for Patrick. Well, the third part of that question was the mindset for after, and obviously both of you have
Oh.
huge goals in life, but there's no denying that there is a certain
Let down.
dark spot.
Mhm.
Maybe we should chat about that a little bit. Obviously, both of you spent a little bit of time in Ireland after your North Channel, and the success and the signing the wall and Pier 36, and then the Giant's Causeway and whatever other beautiful parts of the island you visited. But when you go home and things kind of settle, talk to us through a little bit about that period of between that and the next bit, or what would go through your swimmer's mind?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's pretty, even though you know and you've been told it's gonna happen, I've gotten hit with that one differently on each swim, I would say. I think on Ireland, I didn't really have much of a down. I felt really good and confident, and I had another swim I was already eyeballing, so
Yes,
Like-
it's definitely helpful to have
yeah, get
like
another plan. Mhm.
more on the bucket list. Like you
Yeah.
can have these huge goals, but knowing that there's more places to swim, there's more things to do, even on a very small scale. Like coming back from the North Channel, I'm very lucky and I get to swim. I get to do Escape from Alcatraz swims a lot.
Weekly, she does them weekly.
So it's like even on small scales, it's like, oh, I'm home. I get to go back to my thing. And
Mhm.
you get these little boosts of like, oh, I get to do this swim that I really love. Definitely having something
To look forward
to
to.
look forward to, even if it's something very small, like getting back to your swim pod or the
Mhm.
place where you always swim. It can feel like this huge letdown of, oh, I did this thing and I was successful or not. And coming home, you have to be mentally prepared for
Mhm.
like enjoying returning home.
Mhm.
And I think the hardest, and I think even in our group of people we swim with a lot, I think the question that gets a little bit grating is you immediately come home, you're standing in the locker room or the sauna, and all of your friends, all the people around you, all the people at the club, they congratulate you on the thing that you just did, and then they go, so what are you doing next?
Yeah.
And it's like, I just did this huge thing. Can't we celebrate this? Why does there have to be something else? Like,
But-
what if this is
yeah.
the thing I wanted to do? What if I never do anything again? What if this was it?
Mhm.
Having that question come back at you of, well, what are you doing next?
Mhm.
It's like, well, was this not enough? So I think
Yeah.
being prepared to have that question hit you
That's important.
is really, really important, to not feel like the accomplishment you just did wasn't enough.
Mhm.
You have to be mentally prepared for that question to hit you.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
And
good.
I think it hits people dark differently too, so
Yeah.
just it could surprise even the most prepared person. And if that happens, to not hesitate to reach out to people that maybe aren't necessarily in your tight swim circle, or somebody that you might respect, that will give you some time and feedback, because being in that dark place can be really lonely and really kind of scary. And whether, even if you've done a positive accomplishment or the negative one, you need somebody sometime to just ground you and get you back onto the path. So you don't hesitate to reach out and go beyond your normal circle sometimes, because there are people that will help and listen and be exactly what you need, but you can't keep it to yourself. You got to be a little bit vulnerable and reach out, because that will help you get over those dark places. Some are expected and some are they'll blindside you, like unexpected. So
Yeah. And so similarly, if you don't make a swim, if you don't
yeah, that's
finish,
hard.
coming back, you'll be hit with the question of, well, are you going to try it again?
Yeah.
Which is a really hard, it's super, I don't think people realize how personal of a question that is.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of reasons to not finish a swim, whether it was physical or mental conditions, all sorts of things. So to ask that kind of, you kind of have to be prepared for that question of, are you gonna try it again?
It's a rehashing of just that whole agony all
Yeah, and I
over.
think people don't realize the extent of what that question means to the person.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to be prepared for the question to hit you and how to answer it.
Yeah.
Good advice, ladies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, we should be more mindful of, you know, what effect we have on swimmers afterwards, be it
Yeah.
successful or unsuccessful, or,
Yeah.
yeah,
And even at, you know, at our level, you can hear there are, not for want of a better word, but gossip or
Yeah.
Chinese whispers, oh, such and such is injured, oh my goodness, I don't think they're gonna be swimming, you know, and that's all summary of what they hear. And for us, probably to come to your pilot and say, I'm not swimming or I can't make the goal, it's massive. And you know, it's always, well, you have to wait for that swimmer to come to you and be in a point where their readiness, or, you know, and take the flack of whatever comes the end of it. But the communication, you know, is so important. So yeah, thank you.
And
That's
certainly to end sort of that topic on a positive note,
Yeah.
when coming back, at least when I plan for a swim like North Channel or Monterey, any of these huge swims, I always try and plan some sort of little treat for myself, like, oh, if I finish, I'll do this, and oh, if I don't make it, I'll do this. So I kind of have
A
like
plan.
self-care plan at the end.
That's a good one.
And sometimes it's literal self-care, like a massage, or I'll go to a spa, something like that.
I think
Other
there was a
times-
jacuzzi in there, Sarah, wasn't there? Somewhere beautiful.
Yeah,
and
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, she did.
Oh yeah, there was a spa, like this
Yes.
ridiculously fabulous resort, and I was like, David, can we please go? He's like, of course I can.
Yeah.
Because he
Anything for
always
you, my
loves it
love.
when I plan that sort of thing, because he gets to come along. But sometimes it's a trinket, so you
Yes.
know, I look around my home and I see these sort of trinkets of things I've done, like there's Monterey
Yeah.
and Tahoe.
Yeah.
This one is from where we swim all the time. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's just little things around the house that remind me of the good experience of the thing I just did.
Gracie Fields, or is it?
Yeah, that's Chrissy Field.
Yeah, Christopher by Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh,
Yeah.
And Amy,
Yeah.
likewise in your home, some beautiful trinkets and tokens of
Yeah.
experiences around the world as
Oh,
well.
and the chunky dunkers are up there.
Oh yeah, the dunkers. Yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah.
little-
Yeah,
Ah,
they're amazing community.
Oh, they
Yeah.
are. That's so great.
I can't express how special and unique that is. And to
Yeah.
have that group up there and so engaged in the
Yeah.
open water welcome. Well, they're like the open water welcome community for the North Channel.
Yeah.
They really are wonderful.
Yeah, we're so blessed to have them, and
Yeah.
Donegal itself is such a beautiful village to be stationed in. You know,
mhm.
you don't mind waiting, or
Yeah.
I feel like that. So we're asking all our swimmers one question. Now that you've completed the North Channel, one piece of advice that you would have given, that you would give yourself before you started the North Channel journey, what would it be?
That's a hard one, but good one.
I think the one piece of the challenge of the North Channel that I don't think I was fully prepared for. In hindsight, I think I was, and I think I handled it pretty well, but the roller coaster of, am I going or not? I'm here. What if I don't go? I've come all this way. So being a little more mentally prepared for, I need to be okay if I don't go. I need to be okay if the conditions mean that I don't go. So having quite a bit of stress over, again, the things that the daily stress of, I don't know if I'm going to go or not. And just being okay with, well, this was a fun vacation. So I think, you know, outside of all of the training and all that stuff you can do, I think not minimizing the stress of the roller coaster leading up to it. It really is stressful.
Yeah. I would say that expect the unexpected would be something that I would want somebody to wrap their head around, and be in the moment as well. if you can express and feel both of those things, you'll be prepared. And I think like there's just so many variables like weather that can really stall the date of your swim, because that's why there's a window. However, most swimmers don't get the or the luck. Like I was, I think the first day of my window, I was like, we're going, I think I arrived and I didn't even recover. It was one day and then I was swimming. So I didn't have that same stress, but you have to expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
And also be present in the moment, because if that derails you and like the unexpected is happening and you're derailed, you're not in the moment, it could really go sideways really quickly. So I would say those would be the things I would tell myself. I just happen to have a pretty much a textbook, like window opens, Amy swims, Amy has a lot longer vacation. It was nice. But that said, that's not always what happens.
Yeah.
Ladies, it's been an absolute pleasure. I knew it was a good thing to put you both in the same room and the shared experiences, I think.
Yeah.
I know. And what a lovely friendship that you have with all of the others. Please pass our regards to everyone in Southend. I know there's so many friends that we've made there, and we just had the Wowza Awards coming up, so a few familiar faces popping up. We had Reptile, and we had I think Andrew McLaughlin then kind of reared his head and among it all, and it was like, oh wow, he's always been in our past, and people go and move on to new things, but there he was again, and to Greg and to David also, so and everyone at Southend. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And all we want to say is thank you for what you do. I think you and your organization really take it to the next level of not only providing the swim support during the swim, but look, you're interviewing swimmers that have had intense experiences in this channel, and you're trying to prepare your swimmers. That's above and beyond what normal companies and organizations do. So thank you for all your attention to that.
Yeah.
And we also just wanted to welcome anybody to San Francisco. We'll take you out for a swim.
Oh well, you had Martin Strahan swimming, escaping
I
from
know.
Alcatraz.
So glad
We're going to see Greg and some of your family soon, Amy, and we look
Yep.
forward to the opportunity to show them Carlingford Lock. So that's going to be a lovely experience. So.
And I know there's a bunch of Southlanders coming to hit the wall this year.
Yes.
Yep.
Also,
Magic.
ladies, good evening or good day. Enjoy a nice brunch, and we'll catch up soon.